Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Sharon Moore. You know, I always say today, today, today. Well, family, we got him on the show. Whoa, do we got him on the show? This is a bad dude here, boy. I know a lot of drummers just taking Tylenol and all
Oh
kind
my.
of stuff trying to figure his chops out. You all know him. He's a composer. He's a producer. He's a clinician. He's a studio session drummer. He's a Grammy Award winner, which we're going to talk about later on. I think he's three of them now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's three Grammys. Yeah.
Three Grammys. We're going to talk about that later on. As I said, he's also a recording artist. We'll talk about his albums and what have you. Many of you know him as one of the drummers, a drummer with Snarky Puppy, which we're going to talk about. My boy Robert, who's been on the show. Will you help me welcome my guest? As I said, you all know him. Larnell Lewis. Hey, Larnell.
What's happening?
I tell you, with your body of work, I could have stayed on that interview, stayed on that intro there for a while.
Oh my goodness. Pleasure to be on the show. Thank you.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. We're glad to have you on the show. We're going to jump around a little bit. Then I'll go back and forth because your body of work is rather extensive, and I probably would need a volume 12 of these interviews to cover all of it. Volume 13 in 2027 or something, you know.
Stay working.
You're originally from Canada, Toronto?
Yes, that's correct.
Staying with the history, let's go back a little bit. Start playing drums at 2 years old?
That's correct.
How you know you want to play drums at 2, Larnell?
That's a good question. So for me, I grew up in church. My dad was actually the musical director of the church I grew up at. And being around my parents, my mom was also a vocalist and someone that sang on the praise and worship team. And they had a gospel band together. So you're just around music. So it's really a commonplace thing to see instruments, to see them being played, know how they're played. But like any kid in church, you see someone banging something, you're like, I want to do that. And so I kind of feel like it chose me, but also with my history and my family being, the lineage of musicians that I come from, it's definitely something that I feel was a natural progression and very easy to get into.
I like that. It shows me. I like that. That's interesting. We can see that's another whole show right there. It shows me.
Mhm.
Some Holy Spirit in there too, but
Hey, just a little oil. Just a little oil.
So your first gig was at 7 years old?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
All right. So my dad was playing for an artist, and the drummer wasn't able to make the show. And so we were at rehearsals. My mom was off to school. She was kind of getting recertified and some other stuff. And my brother and I were there just hanging because, that's a good place for us to hang with the music, with my dad. And they said, we don't have a drummer. What are we going to do? My dad looks over to me and says, he could play. Get him to play. And so they're like, your son? And he's like, Larnell, you want to play? Mm-hmm. Do you know the songs? Mm-hmm. And we did a couple rehearsals and we did the performance. And it was actually supposed to be televised, which was really cool. But unfortunately, something happened with the audio for the broadcast. So it never got aired. But yeah, that was my first major performance.
Take me through the high school years. You spoke of high school. What was it scene like in high school as a drummer?
So for me, I actually went to an arts high school, Mayfield Secondary School in Caledon, Ontario. And I had to audition to get into that program, which was great for me because outside of being in church, which was also, you're playing every week. We have a thing called Teen Talent and Junior Talent, where you're competing against other drummers and other people in different instruments and categories. And so that was a major thing, especially amongst my friends, who were also major influences to me. And then you carry that into high school where you're auditioning for this program to be around like-minded students or like-minded people. And what was awesome about that experience was one of the teachers there, Daryl Eaton, rest in peace. He's been passed out for a few years, but Daryl Eaton was actually, he played first trumpet in the Buddy Rich Big Band. And so that was a big, big, big motivator for me, because I was able to just go to the office, hear stories about Buddy, hear stories about the scene. But this is my music teacher, and I have this access to be able to, ask questions, be informed about, experiences and shows, but also get that guidance, because I'm not a know-it-all, right? I'm just starting out, and he's challenging me, and the other teachers as well on staff are challenging me to play and think about music a particular way. John Chalmers is another great teacher I had there. Leslie Scott Crofcheck, another great teacher there. Like, just incredible teachers that were, really, really important people on my guidance, like guiding me on the journey. And one massive thing as well, being in high school, I was actually sued for disturbing the peace, like my family. We were sued for, I'm going to put this out there, we were sued for disturbing the peace by our neighbors. We had a semi-detached house, and I had like a rims kit, but I didn't have a proper drum kit at all. And I was watching drum videos at the time like crazy. And they said, they're running up and down the stairs. They're like yelling and screaming. They're, bouncing balls. They're playing loud drums and loud piano. And they won the lawsuit, which is insane. And so that actually, especially in my high school time, put me in a direction where I basically said, you can stop me from playing drums at home, but you can't stop me from making music. And so I started getting deeper into bass, getting deeper into keys, started composing at that time as well. And I wasn't able to do any practicing at home, so I practiced at school. So I'd take my lunch breaks and just take an empty classroom, and that was my practice. Or mental practice on the bus to school, listening to music, tapping on my lap, or just, envisioning the drums. Yeah, those formative years were really important. And of course, I had to learn to read. So one condition on getting into the school, because I could not read my way out of a wet paper bag, was I had to go to drum lessons and really, really zone in on understanding, not just music theory, but just note, like recognition of rhythms and understanding how to get through rhythms on pages. So.
Well, now, how did you go about start to make a name for yourself around town?
That's pretty interesting. So, I started in the scene, like the kind of general professional scene in Toronto, in about 2002, roughly. And my connections to that scene was through one of my mentors. Again, he's passed as well, Bruce Scarrett, Uncle Bruce. He called me on my first kind of like high level gig where I had started my career officially. But I had been playing in churches and church recordings. So people who were playing in church would also be on the scene, and they would call me and let me know what was happening. And so this is kind of all happened around at the same time, where if my experience, professional experience, came through recordings at church and concerts at church. And then that carried out to people saying, hey, could you sub in here? Could you sub in there? And then before you know it, teachers at my college were mentioning my name on the scene. So pretty early on in my college experience, I was gigging with faculty, and things just grew from there. But I was known as that young kid coming out of high school that was sounding like Dennis Chambers.
That's a hard to do and a compliment all at the same time.
Listen, man, I mean, Dennis being one of my biggest influences, it's that opportunity to hear a hero and hear what's happening musically, and doing your best to kind of go in that lane, that direction, and then hearing people recognizing that in your playing means that you're doing some studying. But it took a while for me to get my own sound.
I thank Dennis. He's going to see this, so let me say I thank Dennis for helping to put this interview together.
Yes, yes.
Awesome man, awesome brother. Awesome
Shout
drummer.
out to Mr. Chambers.
I saw Dennis the first 2 times I saw Dennis, it was just a blur. Just sticks in a blur, like,
Mm-hmm.
Let me move you down the road a little bit. With what you just said and moving forward and playing, how did them old mamas and your father and everybody think of you playing secular music at the time?
Oh, they didn't like it. Well, my parents, I have to say this, you know, as parents would, they encouraged me and they made sure that I had the tools that I needed, and I had an understanding of, right from wrong, an understanding of who I am and whose I am, right? And just like a lot of these like very specific things where, I had the ability to discern where I needed to be versus where I wanted to be and what the outcomes would be. And so they tried their best to equip me as much as they could, because at a certain point, you know, you're on your own and you got to make these decisions and figure it out. So I'm grateful for their guidance. And they, my dad, even though, again, I come from a long line of musicians, he wanted me to get into another, like have a backup to music. So playing, it was, he's like, you could play the drums, go to school for bass, do this, do that, go to school for computers, do whatever you want to do. But once I started making music my main career, they realized that it was serious. They realized that I was making sure that I wasn't compromising myself in any particular way. And so that trust bond was there. And, again, at a young age, that freedom ended up coming. So it was great.
Well, now take me to Humber College. What was the scene like over there?
Okay, so Humber College, incredible experience. A lot of mentors that I gained through those years at the school. So shout out to Mark Kelso, Paul DeLong, Bob McClan, rest in peace, Roger Flock. And there's like a ton of other teachers on staff that, I work with to this day because I'm actually a professor at the school. And so being in my first year, again, Denny Christensen as well, rest in peace, I had a chance to work with and perform on the scene with a lot of these musicians and artists and gain, a type of experience that was unique because, again, coming in first year, I'm already playing on the scene, I'm already recording, already doing a bunch of stuff. So I'm getting these deeper lessons in class, and then I'm getting on the bandstand and needing to use this information and also use what it is that I came into the school with. And then being around, like I mentioned, with high school, like-minded musicians, it was great to see my peers and make these connections, laterally, and just get to know people, get to know myself a little bit more and stretch out. So like any college situation, you make your connections, you hit the scene, you gig. It's incredible. And then going forward, of course, I ended up teaching there, which is great.
You also won the Oscar Peterson Award over there, huh?
I did. I won it in my second year. It was the second year they were offering it, and which was a great honor for me because my dad being primarily like piano and guitar, and telling me about Oscar Peterson and his Caribbean heritage, and telling me, that he's, Canadian heritage, and really breaking down who he was for me at an early age. And then to actually have this opportunity, not only to win the award and not only to meet the man himself, but then also to have my dad there to meet Oscar Peterson, one of his heroes. So I felt like it was a big deal for me to bring that experience to my dad, who's brought me into music,
I'm sure he was proud of you, huh?
Definitely, yeah.
And him meeting Oscar Peterson, boy, I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that one. Sheesh.
Yeah, he was happy.
Let me move you down, as I said, move you down the road a little bit. I don't know which one of these I want to do first. Let's do the, see, like I said, I got 30 pages of you here, so we're going to be here till next week. Nah, just joking. How'd you get that gig with Snarky Puppy?
Ooh. So there's a club out here called the Rex Hotel. They have a stage in the restaurant area, but I was playing there with a band called Rinse the Algorithm. Shout out to Rich Brown, and we had a residency there the last Saturday of every month, and we just happened to be lined up with Snarky Puppy. So Snarky was performing the earlier set, like the night set, and then we were doing like a late night after 12 o'clock, kind of like a 1 hour, 75-minute hit. And so Snarky played, and I finally got to see them live. Then we played, then we all got on stage together, played Teen Town. I came back to the Rex the next day because they did 2 nights. And I met the band officially again, told Sput about his resume because I was just fanning out. And then basically they invited me on stage to just sit in for a tune. And I learned the song on the break, just very quick. And every time they came to town, I would just hang out. Whether I played or not wasn't the big deal for me. I just wanted to connect with musicians that were my age and, experienced and again, build that connection. And so through that, and then having the opportunity to record with the band, things escalated and I started touring and then officially was in the band.
Wow. Through a litany of music, which we're going to come to later on. I don't think that's music. I think Lenny White said, return to forever. People call it Morse code. It's not even music. It's like Morse code. That's what you guys are playing, man. You don't even groove. You go, what was that? Was that a G or B?
Just hit him. As long as that backbeat's there, you just put anything you need.
I'm going to come back to that because Snarky Puppy, man.
Yes.
The transitions and, you guys need a Thomas guy. You don't need sheet music. While we're on credits, let me talk about some of your credits, which is just like the who's who of the music industry. Here's one. Gregory Porter, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, I had a chance to work with Gregory Porter, which was incredible. His band is also incredible as well. And I love his delivery of a story through song, just incredible voice and expression and ability to shape and guide people and just like create an atmosphere that's just so thick,
How did you, his voice is really laid back. He's about 6 bars behind you there. Kind of like Luther Vandross. A house is not a home.
Hey.
Go to the bathroom, come back, you're still on the county. How did you keep that stuff way back and not get lost with Gregory?
You know what? Again, Gregory being such an incredible musician, my job in that situation is to maintain the groove. I don't need to concern myself with where he places what he places because he's doing it so intentionally. So I just need to create that space or that groove or that situation. And it's like any other artist that's backphrasing or any other artist that's expressing, I'm going to just lay down the foundation, trust that they know where I am, and I'm going to trust that they know where they are, and just let them deliver the way that they need to. Like I don't need to be affecting them in any way unless I feel like the overall ensemble has now taken this on, then I'm going to be playing a very specific way to really sharpen our downbeats, so to speak.
I'm going to throw a few names at you of your credits. Tell me what comes to mind. What was the situation like? Quincy Jones.
So Quincy Jones, I had a chance to, it was 2 situations in particular. I had an opportunity to be the musical director here in Toronto for the screening of his documentary at the Toronto Film Festival, and working with Quincy in that capacity, and mainly his team, but a part of that was Shaka Khan, Yeba Smith, and Mark Ronson. And it was a big deal for me because, again, usually I'm recognized as a drummer, but to be a band leader and someone who's also handling all these details and basically kind of being like a music supervisor on that gig, right? There's a lot to organize, there's a lot to happen. And then you got to go and play drums and it's got to feel good, So that was an incredible experience doing that. But then when I got a chance to be inside of everything was to do the tours that we did in 2019, which was pretty incredible. And so Jules Buckley, who conducts for Metropole, and we've worked with through Snarky Puppy, was how this connection came about. And yeah, it was just a massive honor to be able to play with musicians at that level and playing the music of Quincy.
John Schofield.
John Schofield, yes. So John, that was a great experience too. We were at so as a professor at Humber College, we have a program called Artist in Residence, and so he was with us as the artist in res, and getting a chance just to play with him was special for me. And the reason why was not only, is he a legendary guitarist, but he plays on he has one of my favorite songs because it features Dennis Chambers, and the song is called Trim. And I actually played that for my final recital, and to be able to have an opportunity to make music with John in that capacity was pretty incredible.
Of course, there were so many more I could talk about. Pat Martini, Leah Hathaway, so on and so forth, Gary Burton. But I want to bring you forward here. Modern Drummer Magazine, the cover. Come on, brother.
Yeah. I was honored to be on the cover. I mean, that's a dream. That's a dream, right? I mean, that's up there with, playing for your favorite artists or having a signature drumstick, which is another dream, and to be able to be there and be featured with Sput, and also to be featured with my longtime brother, Jason Thomas, and to share that moment with them was incredible, and I'm just like so honored that we actually had a chance to represent on the cover for the band, especially from that record we had, Culture Vulture.
Let's talk gear, endorsements or gear, what drums you're playing, cymbals, heads, sticks, so forth and so on.
Yeah, I'll give you the rundown. So my main kit that I play with, I record with it, and I have like an A/B kit situation because there's one that stays set up to record, which is my Phoenix drum kit from Yamaha. And typically I'm playing a 10, 12, 16 floor, and I have a 14 by 5.5 snare, sometimes aluminum, sometimes steel, both recording custom. And then I have the 14 by 8 Birch recording custom snare as like another low-tuned kind of floor tom snare situation. Zildjian cymbals, love them, been with them for a while. And actually next year for Yamaha makes 20 years that I've been with Yamaha, which is pretty awesome. Zildjian has been a long time as well. I think I signed in 2008 or 2009, so it's been quite a while for me with Zildjian. So I'm playing typically, cluster crashes or special dry crashes, and the ride, it's the Dark Complex, which they don't make anymore, which they bring it back. But I love that, and stacks, of course, around, and then Evans drum heads, which has been incredible. Typically on my toms, they're UV2s, on my snares, UV1s, EQ3 clear on the kick. And for my sticks, officially this year, we released my signature stick with ProMark, which I'm really, really excited about. My relationship with ProMark now officially started in 2013. So yeah, we're just over 10 years. And again, to be able to have an opportunity to build something with a company is incredible. And a company who listens, to their artists and also understands people that are using the product, which is, it's important to me that people are listening. I play Yamaha electronics, Groove X as well, or X percussion with Russ Miller, the acrostic rim that you attach to your snares. Of course, LP percussion has been great to me as well. And yeah, those are, and of course, ProLogic's percussion, like ProLogic percussion, their stick pads, they've been incredible with me as well. So
that's a lot to remember.
Yeah, that's the family, and it's growing, which I'm so grateful for.
Let's horn in a little bit. Get a little mechanics, theories, fundamentals. I call it drum talk. I read somewhere and listened to you talked about learning songs. In one case, you was on an airplane. You had 7 hours to learn 1 million songs. How do you learn that stuff? And keep it, and it's so complex and diverse?
Hmm. I'm going to split it into two parts. So one part is, something that everyone can do to make it a little bit easier for themselves to understand songs. And then the other part is a little more unique to me, which I'll say always use what's unique to you to give you the advantage in any situation. So the thing that everyone can do is understand song form, right? A song's got to start, a song's got to end. So how does it start? Where does it go? What kind of sections in a genre do they typically have in a song? So if you take your average pop song, there's going to be a verse, there's going to be a chorus, there's going to be a bridge of some sort, most times, and then they're going to hit that chorus vamp because, again, that music in popular music is meant to be played in the clubs or be, played in these situations. So the form effectively is not, I'm not going to say the same, but there are similarities between songs for song form. If you go to jazz, same thing. If you're playing more traditional gospel music, if you're playing more modern gospel music, modern jazz, um, you know, uh, Caribbean music, Brazilian music, like every genre has the way that they build the music up because that's how they needed it to be for their expression in their culture. So if you understand to a degree song form, it will make it easier when you hear a song. You can now place it and say, okay, I'm going to use these set of blocks and items, and I'm just going to shift them around because this is the space we're working with. Now, as an individual on the other side, um, I can remember a lot of details just from seeing them right away or hearing them right away. And that's been something that's happened for me at a young age. And it hasn't gone away, which I'm very grateful for. It doesn't always work, especially when I'm at the grocery store, so I got to write things down. But the biggest thing for me is, that I visualize things that I hear. And so I can go back to these images that I see and place myself in that space and basically make music in that space. So play what I see of the images that I see. And that has been really helpful for me for recreating what it is that I need to, but also isolating and compartmentalizing what I hear. So I can create these snapshots and file them away, pull them back, and they are as vivid as the first time I saw them. And then I can live in that moment and express through it. So those are the two kind of like halves that create this guy.
Hmm. Explain, if you will, soloing. How do you solo? How do you build a solo? How do you not get hung? A lot of guys I know get hung up in a solo and get stuck somewhere. Soloing. Explain soloing, if you will, please.
Wow, I mean that's such a big category, right? So if I were to break it down, I've learned over time to relabel soloing so that I can take away a little bit of the, just how much it can expand to and become unapproachable, so to speak. And so I call it feature moments. Okay? A feature moment could be anywhere from like a 2-bar fill in a song to like an open-ended, open solo where you're playing by yourself. So knowing it's a featured moment, now the question is, what's the context? And if I'm being featured in a specific context, what do I have to offer? What's available to me? And I basically play within that zone and express myself in that zone. And the expression would typically look like knowing where my limit is and knowing where the lowest range is, and then just comfortably hovering in between there, but creating enough of an arc so that you feel what it is. So even if my range is of knowledge in that style or whatever it is very limited, I've learned how to create enough of a story to give you the feeling of ups and downs enough. There's also confidence, right? I've done a ton of soloing from when I was 6 years old. My dad would bring me to concerts and would give me an opportunity to play. So that exposure is important to confidence. So breaking down soloing, if I were to tell somebody who's really nervous about soloing before they had to play a show, the first thing I would say is, one, use the chops you have, right? You can't do anything other than you can do. in the next 30 seconds. So we're going to calm down a little bit from there. The next thing is think of a halfway point, right? Build yourself up to that halfway point. And now when you're at the halfway point, let everyone see as many fireworks as you can. Or just kind of be as you know, as clear about what you're going to do, right? So build a halfway point so you can go somewhere, get there, and then go somewhere else. And now you've created some kind of an arc. After that, what I would say with soloing to somebody and, you know, the 30 seconds before they hit the stage is people are reading your expression. So really believe in what you're doing, which is also important to playing what you know, and just have fun because, again, you can be expressive by not doing a lot, and it's still somewhat entertaining. And of course, you can then start to tack on individual pieces and ornament your playing and augment your style and advance your ability to solo by listening to tons of drummers in your off time and inputting that information in your head. So
With you being a bass player also, how does that help or relate, or how does that help with you as a drummer and understanding and playing as a drummer?
being a bass player helps me understand what's annoying about drummers. And that is key, right? Because I've had chances where I'm sitting, you know, and I mean, I don't gig as much on bass anymore. I had a performance I sat in on bass about a month ago, which was great. But, you know, in my earlier days playing bass, I'm realizing, man, I know what I need on the drums to make this bass line feel good, and it's missing. Why is that missing? So now when I'm working with bass players, I have a better understanding of, you know, what works for their facility, what encourages them to play staccato versus legato, and really how to kind of produce a moment together and not just play little brother tagging on to every bass note and bass line and rhythm that they're playing. And really it's just about understanding how to leave gaps and leave space and treat the bass like a percussion instrument that has the ability to live in that lower register but also, you know, affect the harmony as well. Like it's really it really opens my eyes and opens my ears and my understanding of how we could all build the sonic picture together.
Now, we do a thing on the show we call Word of Advice, where I ask the drummers, I ask the guests if they would leave a parting word for the up and coming drummers, guys that are trying to get traction in this industry, in this game, even guys at the next level. Would you leave them a word of advice? Word of advice, please.
Absolutely. As a word of advice, I'm gonna do. Can I do like 3 parts? Okay, cool. So the first word of advice is to take care of yourself, right? Because we are human beings, we are not immortal, and you want to have the best quality of life as possible to enjoy this thing that you love to do. So take care of yourself. That means, you know, sleep hygiene, right? I'm talking about like settling yourself down for bed properly, you know, setting yourself up with the right kind of people for, you know, the way that you want to exist in the world. So really having those that support you, not just cheerleaders, but coaches to give you a balanced perspective, right? So that's mental. You know, having your dreams and aspirations are great, but then always having a plan of how you're going to get through those things. And again, like the way that we work through life, step by step, if you focus and you apply yourself to these steps, you will get to where you want, because it's not enough just to have a dream. You got to work. Okay. So take care of yourself, not just of your body, but of your mind and of the future person that you want to be, and to be able to enjoy the things that you are working so hard to build up now. Musically speaking, right? Really understand that there's such a big world out there, and you can specialize. There's nothing wrong with specializing, right? I would recommend that you specialize actually, but be aware of everything else. You know, be understanding and open to other music. you can actually learn a lot, because these genres, these other styles, these entities, these people, they're like your cousins, essentially. So get to know your musical family when it comes to genres, when it comes to instruments, when it comes to, all of the aspects of how to create and make the music. And then the music business is the third part. Take care of business so business takes care of you. And, that's a big lesson for me, where I've actually, again, experienced so much and had mentors really pouring into me to understand that. And so I pass that on to everybody. Take care of business so business takes care of you.
That's beautiful. Take care of business so business can take care of you.
Yeah, I'll shout out Mark Kelso because he's the one that hit me to that. So
That's great. That's great. I like that. I'm definitely going to use that in the show here. I think we need to know that. I think we need to hear that more often. Let me get you down the road
absolutely.
a little bit further. What did it feel like getting a call for your first winning your first Grammy, man? What did that feel like?
So the crazy story was the first Grammy with me was with Snarky Puppy, and it was 2017, I believe, for Culture Vulture. And we were at our festival, our music festival called the Ground Up Music Fest. And we were there at the festival. Again, the whole band is there. And then the news came through. You just won a Grammy. So we did our festival and decided not to actually go to the Grammys this particular year because, it worked out for the festival timing and the artists and whatnot. And yeah, so our festival's usually around the Grammys. And so to hear, oh my gosh, I'm there. My wife is there with me. We're at our own music festival, which is feeling great. And then to top it all off, you hear that you win a Grammy. Like, the feeling is just incredible. Yeah.
You didn't get up and run around the room and take shoes off and the whole thing?
It's overwhelming, man. I mean, I was really, I was honored to be able to be at the Grammys for the Grammy that Snarky won previously for the record that we did with, and Sput was on drums for that, the record that was done with the Metropole Orchestra. And so Silva is the name of the album. And I went to the Grammys for Silva and we won. So I actually got a chance to go up on stage, right, and experience the whole thing. And then to actually have a Grammy of my own. And also the same thing happened again when we won for Empire Central last year, right? Or earlier this year, I should say. Well, earlier this year, 2024. My brain is so slow. I think it was last year because we released it. Yeah. So we won, right, for Empire Central, which is incredible. And again, we were at our festival and we heard the news that we won, which was great. And yeah, I mean, I didn't run around, just a lot of high fives. A lot of people who were fans of the band were there as well, congratulating us. So it was a really positive space to be in, very comfortable space to be in. And we got to make music right after that, which was incredible,
Tell me about your album, In the Moment. Is that the latest one?
So In the Moment's the first record for me. And so I've done 3 records. In the Moment was first, which was my introduction to the world as a songwriter. I had been writing songs, as I mentioned previously, since like early high school. And it was a very long journey to that point. So much so that some of the songs that are on that album, I actually had started writing in high school. And early years in college, and was really nervous about presenting myself as a songwriter. I didn't really think they were enough. And after a while in working with my band, I said, you know what, we're going to put this out. We're going to do this. And it was great. That way I was able to establish myself as an artist. And yeah, a lot of stuff happened for me. Actually, that record was nominated for Juno, which is the awards that we have here in Canada. And that was the 2018 Jazz Solo category. That album was followed up with a release in 2020 called Relive the Moment, where I basically went to studio and played some of these songs over, just kind of reinterpreting the drums and adding a new song and a drum solo actually called The Forgotten Ones, which was honoring those whose shoulders that I stand on. And we often don't think about, we think forward. And if we think about those who were before us, we sometimes just vaguely remember them, but we have to remember as we evolve and move up, they did a lot of things to make what we do now possible. And so that was me paying homage to them. Third record is called Slice of Life, and that was the new release this year. And that's really just a story about me being a dad, which is great. I'm now father of 3. The youngest one is 13 weeks, which is incredible. And just like a lot of ups and downs with that experience for a variety of reasons. Medical complexities with my son, and then COVID hits, right? So now I'm at home with these 2 little kids and, building my family and understanding them. And my wife is a musician as well. She plays the steel pan, and we're actually releasing a record together for the first time. And this is coming out on November 14th. And the album is called The Caribbean Christmas Mixtape Volume 1. And it's basically us arranging Christmas tunes, coming from that Caribbean background, which her family's from Antigua, my family's from St. Kitts. And we're just showcasing that part to the world because a lot of people don't really know that side of me. And growing up in that and paying, again, homage to my family, especially my dad, who would record a lot of Christmas carols for himself just to have. We used to listen to that every year. And so this was kind of me having my own thing, but also me doing something alongside my wife and then building a tradition with our kids and also our musical family as well. So I'm looking forward to that release.
Larnell, there's a question I usually ask the guests at the end of the show. Larnell, what do you want your legacy to be said, to be told?
That's deep. My legacy. When I think about what I leave behind, I want to leave behind an understanding of loving yourself and loving your light, and loving who you are. And I think it's just really important because when you love something, if you treat it like a candle, like when you kind of respect it and love it and you hold it and you revere it and you want to protect it, just understanding the environments that it needs to be in to survive, understanding how to grow it, again, to flourish and survive. And I think just people understanding that about themselves is the biggest thing. And so I take that as a challenge and an opportunity to just remind people that we have a light in us. As hardworking as we are, as consistent as we are, we wake up every day, we have this light, and, don't use it to burn people. Don't use it to, tear things down, but use it to really, bring truth and to brighten the spaces that you're in. And so I think when I think about what I leave behind on this earth, besides, loving drums, besides loving my family, besides, wanting to lead a group of thinkers and clear communicators, I also think about just reminding people that we do have one life and one light, and to really cherish that and honor that and protect it and do your best to allow it to be a light and warmth to others.
We're going to put you in the pulpit. I hear it. I hear it in you, boy. You ever heard that before?
All the time.
See? Yeah, I hear it in you, man. It's not from the, it's more from the intellect, where you get to their intellect and then to their emotion and soul and so forth.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. Let me ask you this one. Did your father get to see the success?
Absolutely, yeah. I call him every day, every chance I can. I was watching, I was at that same place, the Rex. I finally got a chance to get out the house. And I made my way to the Rex to see Black Dynamite, also known as Mike Mitchell. Shout out Mike Mitchell. Played last night at the Rex, which was just an incredible show with his trio to hear him playing and singing. And took a video clip and I sent it to my dad, and we get a chance to jam every now and again. We'll just kind of do round robin, hop on instruments. Yeah, like he's seen the success, and especially with my brother as well. I don't know if you know that my brother's a drummer. Yeah, so he's just coming back. Sorry, go ahead. I can't hear you.
I got to go in and out of mute because of the
Of course.
because of the background. Pardon me. Yeah, I do know your brother. He played at the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And so yeah, like my dad's really proud, my sister as well. She sings, plays a little bit of drums. And so, yeah, like my parents are still here. They're still seeing the success. I call them all the time. We share jokes. Anytime I deal with something and I'm like, wow, I can only imagine what my parents went through. I call them and I say, look, I'm so sorry. I just want you to know, like, I have a way better understanding now, and I'm taking the opportunity while I can, to share it. But I love them, and yeah, my parents have seen the success, and I got to hand them my sticks, my signature sticks, which was cool. And yeah, it's great. I'm really, really grateful.
As I let you go, tell me, what does this phrase mean to you? The drums can't feel. Hit the drums.
Oh my gosh, that is my dad. Growing up, he, again, with like a really quiet demeanor, that I have, that would often just reflect on the drums. And so he would just say, look, man, the drums can't feel. You have to hit them hard, like this. You sit down. And my mom would often say, like, my dad's name is Oro. She'd be like, Oro, you're too loud. She would say that, you could, no microphones, nothing. He's playing in the church and you could hear the drums from like miles away. But that was really important to breaking me out of my shell, because we use our personality because it's somewhat comfortable for communicating. And when I realized that, oh, you know what, I could be quiet and chill, but I have a responsibility on this instrument. And so I'm going to break out of that shell when I need to, on the drums or the basketball court, right? And just like be aggressive and really, put it forward the way you need to. And so, yeah, the drums can't feel. It's an inanimate object, but we use it to make people feel something. So.
That's another fly on the wall moment I like to been there to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let me say thank you so very much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show, man.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
I've seen some good video of you, man. I said, this guy on the show, I called Dennis. I said, Dennis, do you know? You think we can get him?
Yes, and here I am, man. Thank you.
So I really appreciate it. Will you help me wave goodbye to all the fans?
Take care, y'all. Easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, David Garibaldi here. I get to say a few words about Larnell, which is very, very cool. I've known about his playing for a long time, Snarky Puppy and, some of the other things that he's done. Last summer, we spent a week together at the Drum Fantasy Camp in Los Angeles. And, I got to know him a little bit, watched him play, saw him interact with people. It was really fantastic. The guy's got some incredible influences, grew up in a gospel environment, learned how to play in the church. His family, they come from the Caribbean. So he has all these really terrific influences in his playing. Stunning level of playing, and the way that he's put everything together was super creative. A great example of someone who has, a creative voice.